Hey, hey. So, how has organizing this event been on you? Taxing?
I think the key thing about these type of events is that, you know, we're in the second year the BitBrum's run, and the first year was 2007. 17, and we were at the height of the bull market. And everybody was interested in Bitcoin. Everybody wanted a piece of it. And the event was free, and we had over 250 odd people turn up. And it was easy to be involved in the space in those. But times like this, it's more a test is how can you keep the show going? Because the key thing behind the idea of Bitcoin is that we want people to be able to walk in off the street, not have any experience of Bitcoin, not understand the technology, but equally to be able to learn the skills that they need to avoid the scams and giving them the tools to innovate. And, you know, that agenda carries on irrespective of whether or not Bitcoin is popular from one year to another. But I'm sure that if we were looking at a bull market, then things would be probably a little bit more buzzing. But so we have, we've got about 100 people here at the moment, and everybody's all in workshops and learning about Lightning POS terminal builds, and they're listening to talks on BTC Pay server and learning Bitcoin basics with Matt Baldock. So yeah, good show.
And in terms of the audience, do you think the people that have come this year are very Bitcoin literate or less literate? Do you think, as in, look, what I'm trying to say is, do you think they're more Bitcoin literate because of the fact that we're in a bear market? And so the people that kind of stuck around are the ones that are either still hodling, or they're just like, you know, they're just holding on for dear life, trying to, you know, hold on to the philosophy of it all, waiting for the bull run to happen again.
Yeah, I think that's it. You've got, on one level, you're preaching to the converted, and some people just get it, and they're all running around saying, why don't people get it?
Yeah.
And then other people are sort of saying, yeah, I'm prepared to put some time in and learn about the technology, and hopefully in an environment like this, when they realize that there's real experts around that haven't got their heads at their asses, they're prepared to talk and explain and share their knowledge with you. That's exactly the type of situation we're trying to promote. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like being a musician, you know, sometimes you can be really popular and everybody loves your stuff, but being a musician is harder when people aren't listening.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of same approach. But I mean, as Adam from CoinFest said, and I've often remembered this, you know, he said, when I first organized CoinFest, I didn't care if it was just my mom.
Yeah.
And well, we carry on that philosophy. So hopefully, you know.
CoinFest, I went 2017, and it was the first like proper crypto conference I went to, and I thought it was amazing. It's really cool, really down to earth. You've got a pub in the middle of it. You've got the, you know, well, it's the bar. That's kind of a good and a bad thing. You spend most of the time in there, and then end up sleeping on the front row, not being on the Bitcoin group show because you're not allowed, but waving the Bitcoin flag and all that. But yeah, no, I love it, and I love the kind of the non-massive commercial conferences, because you get to walk around, you get to speak to, like, you know, the crypto stars, you know, starstruck every time I walk around, like, oh, you know, so and so, and I love the smaller community, and that not having the segregated areas of VIP and stuff, and, you know, it's all cool and everything, but it's just nice when everyone's on the same playing field. And it's like that here, you know, everyone is up for talking. No one wants anyone to miss out on information. You know, we're all in it for the long haul. We don't want scammers. We don't want, you know, ridiculous information going around. And so, yeah, everyone's really helpful. That's what I find.
Yeah, which is somewhat helps. I mean, it depends how you find a business model to keep these things going, because I mean, right from the outset, BitBrum isn't about profit, never has been. It's all about being prepared to pay forward and invest in the space to repay that space for the fact that, you know, I've been able to work in the community. So it's the right thing to do, but it's also important professionally as an engineer. Yeah, hopefully we can improve the show, and you know, if we'd have had a little bit more budget this year, I think we'd have been able to also get, you know, it would be great to get Adam back. would be perfect. You know, Peter Todd and some of the other guys that we've met at the conferences around and about. When people realize that they can come up and hang out with some really interesting, committed people that are otherwise busy, but they're open and they're happy to talk to you, I think that's a really unique aspect of the crypto space. And it's really nice that you can do that, and we want to be a part of that. So if BitBrum's a way of coming to meet you or the people that otherwise you would only see online, then it's great.
Well, I think the fact is you put a barrier up when you have, not dissing it, but like last time I went to Consensus in 2018, I paid like, I think it was $2,800 because I went last minute. It was savage, you know, and I couldn't even see most of the talks because it was just rammed, and I ended up just spending most of the time in the coffee shops outside, just chatting to people or smoking outside, you know, and that's where you can actually hear stuff and everything. So these conferences are really good because they give people the entry level who are more about learning than just earning like money. You know, I find that on the more expensive ones, you get the kind of big money players, you know, and that's all good in certain environments. But this is a really good learning environment. It's very workshop orientated, and I really like the idea that you're able to get people around the table building things, you know, and that's what's really cool.
Yeah, that's great, and thanks to Ben for that. I mean, he's obviously got that background, and I respect him enormously because, I mean, you can see that he's driven by that kind of same passion for engineering. Ben's in there building stuff now, and when people realize that they can come away from a show like this saying, I wasn't sure if Bitcoin's going to be useful for my business. Well, I mean, you're going to get the reassurance that there's no legal or legislatory reason why you can't accept Bitcoin. Then it becomes a question of how you do it.
Yeah.
And there are various ways of doing it through point of sale terminals, through websites. And when then you realize the technology is free and all you're really doing is paying for the same bandwidth and hosting that you would pay for anybody else, and you can be up and running with global micropayments for 0 fees for $8 a month with one click, you would think that people would be battering the door down. But it's surprising. I think there was a survey recently that said something like 5% of Brits actually get the technology, and others either haven't heard of it or they're a long way off being inducted into it. Yet Britain is predominantly small businesses are earning, employing people less than five people.
Well, even like it's, you know, is it still like the financial capital of the world? I heard that word, you know, that phrase bandied about a while back, but surely, like, you know, you would be the forefront of technology, and Bitcoin is clearly the most ninja technology for finance. So, you know, I don't understand why we're not, as a country, embracing it more. I mean, it seems logical that, you know, they're clocking onto all the other buzzwords, you know, AI as bank tellers, and they're fitting in all these other technological areas where they can use AI and blah blah blah. But then you've got blockchain, you've got Bitcoin, and you're like, there's Bitcoin. They're like drug dealers. And you're like, oh yeah, what did people use for drugs before? I'm not gonna lie. When I was naughty in uni, I only used cash to buy green plants, not of that variety. I mean, I'm a horticulturalist. Yeah. So what? You know, crime didn't exist before Bitcoin. Is that what? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, if you want to get onto that as a subject, then I mean, early on in my time with Bitcoin, I ended up doing training for the police, for 42 police forces in the UK. They all have digital media investigators, and they said, oh, you know about cars. Do you want to come and talk to us about car architecture? And it's like, how about Bitcoin? Is anybody interested? Yeah, funnily enough, quite a few people have asked, maybe you could run a course on it. I was meeting serving police officers that have been mining Bitcoin since 2010. Yeah. And they're like, what's not to like about it? And they even said at the time, there isn't much criminal activity around Bitcoin, to be honest, because, you know, people, if you think you can get involved in criminal activity with Bitcoin, you must be the dumbest fuck out there, because you're going to have your door kicked in 10 seconds flat.
It's like, it's
not the currency that you want to use for criminality. I mean, yeah, it can be used as a global payment mechanism. Probably you can buy some weed from wherever. I mean, personally, I would never waste Bitcoin on anything like that. You know, fine, cash has been doing that for years. And the idea that you can outlaw a technology because somehow it is good enough to be adopted by early adopters is like saying, well, we should shut the M4 because terrorists use it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or ban shoes. I mean, the fact that the technology is picked up by these people, but it's changing very fast. I mean,
the fact that it's used show that it works. Isn't that really odd? Like people use stuff that works, and it's like, wasn't it? What was it? The internet, like, obviously the internet, people were using it for stuff, and writing your emails and stuff, and watching a picture download line by line back in the day. But like,
I remember
but ubiquitous porn is what basically set the end. That is nefarious from people's perspective, but it was a distribution method and it worked.
I mean, I'm of an age where I literally remember, like it was yesterday, where two things. One is, isn't the internet nothing but porn?
Yep.
And it was seemingly nothing but porn, because that is the way that
the glory days
started.
The glory hole days.
And then another one, in a group of at a professional conference sometime in the 90s, somebody saying, has anybody used a credit card to pay online these days? You must be mad. Received wisdom that everybody understood that, of course, it was a really stupid idea, this whole internet thing.
And
we're very much in that time now. And when people realize that there's many upsides to this technology and it is accessible, but you have to marvel at the forces that are out there trying to prevent people's consciousness of it. And, we're not particularly militant in the way we go about anything. We're just trying to spread the message. But you've only got to pull back the leaves and you realize that this technology is something that informs many a business. And in my case, the automotive industry is something that I've worked a lot in. And just in the last 1 or 2 years especially, people are really catching on to the idea that you can use this technology in cars for micropayments and for data sharing and access control, for pay-per-use updates. And of course, it's a global currency where you can make very small payments with almost no fees without having to change the systems you put in that car one little bit to go in different territories.
So are you saying that soon I will be able to lightning pay the car in front to move out the bloody way?
That has actually been specified as one of the use cases, where somebody said, yeah, you will get people that will say that my car's just paid you to get the hell out of my way. I'm in a hurry, and here's some lightning payments. And of course, the communication of this bunch of bytes between two cars is a minimal subset of the kind of complexity that cars deal with now. I mean, your average car's got 90 embedded systems in it. A Range Rover or something like that has around 90 embedded systems, and some of them are very powerful devices. They can control the engine control system, the stability control system. They can cope with engines of different types, diesel, petrol, hybrid, combine them with electric motors. The level of infotainment and the level of sophistication, it's widely known in the industry that if you go and buy a car, around 50% of the money, the value that you see in that vehicle is expressed by the electronics and stuff in it. When you watch a car advert, they never talk about catalysts. They're always talking about the sat-nav. And it shows you that people are very much... So the idea that we're working on is that you can... everybody that owns a car or operates a car, they're generating data. That data is essentially yours because it's available through public protocols with off-the-shelf equipment, and it's valuable. If you imagine what would be the value of knowing how many electric vehicles were traveling through Birmingham during the week, in the mornings, what would be the value of somebody saying, I'm running my own little local ride-sharing scheme, or I have an electric bike and I'd like to share it with my friend or rent it out. So when you start to use tokens to some extent, they're very easy to get started with. But of course, they're magic beans in many ways. They're not worth anything unless you choose to give them some value, and that's problematic. Bitcoin has always been possible to engineer into a car, but the blockchain's way too big, and the proof of work requirements are way too hard for a car. So you have to have a way of mitigating that. But when you do have large numbers of cars connected to these networks, then you can start to use micropayments, and people can literally conduct activity between themselves and their car between themselves and other people, or between cars and other cars, and also cars and infrastructure. So you can be paying for events, you can be using lightning payments to give you access to barriers for parking, as a reward for the data that you're sharing, as a reward for offering people lifts. So these are the sort of systems we're trying to build now. And they rely on some other interesting aspects of so-called blockchain technology. For example, if you're in the business of offering people lifts in your car, or you want to rent it to them, of course, you can't do that on an anonymous basis. You need to know who the hell's taking your car or is getting in that car with you. So for that, we have an identity system built in that basically allows you to take the passports of around 50 different countries and scan them, store the information in a blockchain, and then you can prove who you are by saying, by taking a selfie, you can say, I'm Peter from Canada, or I'm Joe from Birmingham, and I live in this city, or this is my address. So the system can attest to various bits of information about your physical identity, and it's backed by AI that effectively associates the selfie that you're using as evidence to check against an encrypted hash of your details that are stored in this blockchain. And we have this built into the app so that people can say, I'll only rent my car to people that have been through this app, and in the end, I do have some recourse to the people.
Do you think? Do you see though that with the increased amount of electrical systems within a car, and especially with the autonomous cars coming along, that they're very much more open to attack?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about classic cybersecurity issues around cars now. This is a thing that really kick-started the whole vehicle security thing, is that for many years, cars weren't connected to the internet. They were developed by people that worked very closely together. It was a bit of a boys' club. There wasn't any globalization. People know how to keep their mouths shut. Things that really shouldn't get out didn't get out. And correspondingly, there's a famous talk by Andreas Antonopoulos, which is absolute classic parody with interesting to compare with the automotive industry, and it was Bubble Boy and Sewer Rap. Did you ever see that? So Andrew's basic premise was like, I'm going to talk about kids. My sister's had some kids, I don't have any. What is this helicopter parent thing going on at the moment? Why do the moment they get any mud on them, do they come and shower them in, they call it Purell, we call it Savlon. This idea that you can protect your kids, and what happens is that they don't mix with anybody, they don't get colds, they don't develop immunity. This is what's happened in the automotive industry for years. And attacking a moving car that's built like a Range Rover or something like it is very hard when the thing's doing 80 mile an hour down the motorway. The moment you connect it to the internet, suddenly these so-called attack surfaces are starting to be revealed, and they are massive. So think about all of the wireless technology that's around your car. You've got tire pressure monitoring running over Bluetooth, over Wi-Fi. You've got the infotainment system you connect into Bluetooth. You probably can run a wireless hotspot from your car. Plugging in a Bitcoin node into that is pretty easy if you're an individual, because it's kind of, I've got a gadget, I'll plug it in, I can drive around. Engineering the capability to systematically use cryptocurrency payments takes a lot longer, because you can't be putting keys in cars in a way that they can be extracted. These things are, it's a famous saying about Land Rover, 75% of all the Land Rovers that are ever built are still on the road, and the other 25% of them are chicken sheds. And that is how long these cars stay out in the wild. So where the technology is evolving around this cryptocurrency, to commit that to a production vehicle that's going to be out in the wild for 15 or 20 years is a bold move at this stage for anybody. But to understand what global frictionless micropayments and the ability for people to monetize their data, and also to handle access control and be able to share the resources that they own. So out of the box, you've got the ability to run a fleet of bikes that wants to deliver pizzas, or you've got a local ride sharing scheme. Some funds exchange hands to cover petrol. That's how they do it normally with cash. You can immediately do this same stuff with crypto without having to ask anybody's permission.
Just lightning it. And I think that's what worries me is about 3-4 years ago, I presented at a testing conference, and the guy after me he was an ethical hacker. And he had a few products that he talked about, and it was all about the Internet of Things, this new age of product, and how you need to be really careful with what you buy and who you buy it from. Yes. Now, I think in terms of car manufacturing, there's car integrated lightning or lightning integrated cars. There's a huge amount more work and effort that goes in. That these are the smaller products are the one you have to look out for. Like there was, so one example was a similar type Barbie doll. I don't know if it's Barbie. Other toys are allowed, whatever BBC makes you say. So it was a doll, and it said stuff, and the guy live hacked it on stage, and he redirected the queries to a different database, and it was started effing and blinding, and he was pressing the buttons, and it was saying all sorts of hilariously horrid stuff. And you think, oh, that's crazy. And he did the same thing with a toaster and with kettles, and he actually, because he was able to reverse engineer the proprietary software that hadn't even been changed, and they didn't even encrypt the Wi-Fi ID, he was able to see a map of every one of these kettles in London and could turn them on and off as he wished. And then even more scary, the old, I don't know how to say this before the watershed, but Wi-Fi controlled wobblers that so yeah, apparently that's quite a big thing. These things are getting hacked now, so people are like, suddenly buzzing and being like, oh shit, did someone broke the internet? So you've got to be really careful. See, it's an amazing thing. It's really powerful being able to have these systems, but it's got to be done carefully. And I bet that's a worry when you're building that system, is that you're going to have one of these moments.
Absolutely. Did you hear of the G-Pack? G-Pack.
Oh no, that's probably similar to the wobbler.
Yeah. So basically, you've got a relatively small subset of cars operating with one particular phone network. You've got
I was thinking of a different G.
Yeah. No, Jeep. Jeep.
Oh, Jeep.
Company. Basically, two hackers or security people, Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek, put a rocket under the arse of the car industry a few years ago, because they were able to hack into the head-up display of the car, bypass the fact that there wasn't really a very thorough way of setting the thing up, because they're fitted on the track, so the passwords are open. They managed to crack the wireless password to get remote access to the head-up unit. From there, they immediately could play around with the heating and control systems on the car, put silly pictures up, make your head-up display switch to crazy tracks. But then here's the clever thing. I mean, in cybersecurity parlance, it's called lateral movement, where you say, well, okay, so where can I get to from here? So they basically moved on to the CAN chip, the controller area network chip, which links together many important embedded systems on cars. And they were able to basically, then the interesting stages, posing as Jeep service people, they were able to get access to the information they needed to get through the security mechanism, take control of the steering and brakes of the car,
Savage.
and put this Jeep off the road. All because they were effectively exploiting a very old network that's been around a long time, doesn't have much protection, was invented way before the World Wide Web, and has hitherto been not connected to the internet. The moment you make that connection, they were able to basically expose the fact that the cryptographic protection around these systems was kind of 20 years old and hadn't really been improved, because there was no necessity to do it. Yeah. It was something that only the industry knew about. But of course, all of this information gets out online. Now you can look at these protocols on Wikipedia. So there's challenges and opportunities. One is that the car industry needs to improve its cryptographic security. The whole area around decentralized technology, disintermediated networks, decentralized networks, micropayments, decentralized consensus, absolutely informs the design of connected autonomous vehicles. And many firms are really starting to wake up for that. There are quite a few firms in the space now that are working on the back office stuff to do with saying, hey, we can use smart contracts to handle our vehicle rental and leasing back, and we can save a lot of money. We're one of the few companies that's involved in developing the technology and trying to embed it in the car. Because if you can turn those 90 or so embedded systems in a car into a distributed peer-to-peer network, you cannot attack that car anyway as easily as you can now, where there's single points of failure.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you're effectively aggregating the combined weight
Network
of
effect.
all of the embedded systems in the car and across entire fleets together to work in a decentralized network. So attack one car, then of course, you've got the private key security stuff to look for. But in cars, the automotive industry is not as daft as people might think. We have secure hardware modules built into the embedded systems in cars. So you've effectively got the capabilities of a hardware wallet built into most systems.
Yeah.
So then the problem is to say, well, of course, my engine management system can't be doing proof of work. You need to have a way of dialing back that consensus mechanism in a way that allows you to induct fleets of cars into these networks, but still not dilute the decentralized benefits of having the networks. The moment you do that, then tokens, micropayments, data sharing can all be done. But the same technology can run in a lamppost, it can run in a traffic light, it can run in a coffee machine. It's all about making the protocol as small as possible so it can work on very low resource microprocessors. And that's the sort of stuff.
So have you assessed so Litecoin, because you go lightning. So you're integrating Lightning, yeah? I'm assuming you've investigated shitcoins. What was the reason that drew you to Lightning?
There's a lot of interest in IOTA in the automotive industry at the moment. There's a lot of attention being paid for it. Some well-known manufacturers, Jaguar Land Rover, I'm very fond of, have decided that they're going to be giving people IOTA for data that they gather from the vehicles, because of course the cars have got more than enough sensors to detect potholes.
Yeah.
So you can kind of sell that information back. So imagine that Birmingham City Council turns the entire Jaguar Land Roving population of Birmingham into a bunch of pothole-seeking autonomous. Well, that's got to be worth it.
Assessing for the government, and not that they'll do anything about it, because not being funny, but English roads are bloody awful.
Well,
cheerio, pip pip, and all that.
We need a change of government. Basically,
need no government. No government.
The idea behind it is basically sound. But let's say this: if you were a Range Rover driver and somebody was giving you kind of IOTA, compared to being a Ford driver, and I could earn Lightning payments. I mean, I'm not suggesting Ford as such, just as a mass car manufacturer. Where's the value? And would you sell the data from your everyday car for IOTA? Would you sell it for Satoshis? You might do, especially if it's a commute that you're doing every day. You're not giving away anything of yourself. You're not disclosing. And if you have a system where you can say, fine, I'm sharing my data. For anybody who wants to buy it, I might get 10p a day for it, but it's useful because I'm commuting through Birmingham. If I have other plans in the evening, then turn it off, and you can remove that delegation. So it's giving people sovereignty over their own data and also giving them the ability to monetize that data. And the challenge is then to start the data marketplace that allows people, of course, if you're an independent developer of phone applications that rely on geographic information, say in Birmingham or any other city, and you want to get real data to be able to help you design this application, then who do you go to? If you're not in bed with some huge company, or you're prepared to pay, deal with an asymmetrically larger organization to try and get this data, I think that's where the demand will come from, is that we'll start a community revolution in data sharing, and it starts off small, but the costs associated with distributing that data are very small, because using Lightning Network, you can afford to take 10p a day, and it's not costing you anything. It's data that you would generate anyway, so why wouldn't you? And I think if we can get to that stage, then we'll get the take up. So,
that's it. I think you're totally right there. Like, adoption at the moment for Bitcoin is not difficult, because people have to get over the concepts, get over the security hurdles, get over the technology, get over the how to use it, private key management, etc. If you give someone a system like your car system, integrated car system with Lightning, and you say, right, you have the choice whether you have these payments or not. You make that decision so easy, and especially when you make it, a lot of people have said that Bitcoin is going to be successful when people don't even know they're using it.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I think, really powerful.
Yeah,
and if you could, even to the extent that you say people don't even know it's Bitcoin, you can at the end of it say, I want my fee in Bitcoin or fiat.
Yeah.
You could even give people, and then they don't know it's Bitcoin until they go, oh, I'll have it in Bitcoin this time. What's Bitcoin?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, the whole UX side of things is an area where there's a massive amount of work to do. You can pretty much reduce the complexity of the applications to say, well, how many tokens do you want to receive per block? How much do you want to charge per day for renting the car out?
Yeah.
Lightning payments are built in, token payments are built in, and you've got all the other currencies that go with them. But you can't get away with the fact that equally, culturally, you are starting to deal with real money on a day-to-day basis with ordinary people that hitherto had bought your car. But this is the holy grail for automotive companies. They want to keep people in the ecosystem. It's how they make the profit on their cars. It isn't just the thing that goes out of the factory and is bought. It's the experience going forward. So when you've got ways of effectively keeping the customers engaged, and you've got a cost-free or very low-cost way of making these trainings, you've got the ability to enhance the kind of ownership experience as much as possible. But along the way, of course, anybody that gets into this technology has to understand private key security. And that's what BitBrum's about. You can come here and you can say, like, what the hell is the deal with all of these private keys? I need to keep them secure. How do I do that? What do I need? And of course, when you finally get to that stage, it's no more difficult than opening a packet of cornflakes once you're familiar with the technology. Yeah. But it can seem daunting at first, and that is what BitBrum is all about. So the fact that the work that we're doing in the business is able to help underwrite BitBrum and to create that opportunity for people, that's why we're here. That's why everybody else is here.
And so if the main point of this you're saying is education. You want people to go away informed, able to have their bullshit detector on board.
Definitely,
and for next, so what if you had a message for the people that could potentially come next year? Yeah. What would it be?
The whole idea about BitBrum is to give you the ability to learn about the technology in an objective way from people that are concerned about the quality of the information they're giving you. We do our absolute utmost to keep out all of the scams and so on, because that is the next pitfall. Giving you the confidence and skills to innovate is what really it's all about, and that's what we're here for. And BitBrum will always try and do that, but we also hope to be able to introduce people to some of the awesome people in the space who, we take for granted that you get to hang out with world-famous cryptographers over a coffee.
No, it's amazing, isn't it?
And these guys are unsung heroes. They're people that aren't, glamorous. They're not the sort of people you would see interviewed on the BBC. But the contribution they're making to changing the world we live in, you can come and meet these people and you'll find that they're highly accessible. There's no egos.
Yeah.
I think.
And then you have Craig Wright, which is like the literal opposite. Sorry. Just, it grinds my gears. Sorry, Karen.
Well, no. But
the open sourceness. It's like that information sharing. It's that side of things.
It's about, partly many engineers in the space. It's a responsibility to help educate your peers. Also, you have a professional responsibility to make sure the stuff that you're doing is as good as quality. Mixing BitBrum with professional conferences is something quite hard, because it's like herding cats in this space. But the idea that you can hang out with some of these great people. Yeah. And BitBrum is one of those kind of shows where you never quite know who you're meeting.
Yeah.
And we've got some interesting people. So, get out of bed on Sunday and come and do something useful with your week.
Awesome. Well, I will be here for the foreseeable. We've got someone else to interview as well. Yeah. So, Joe, well, thanks very much. Looks like we can grab someone. Yeah, so thanks for awesome conference so far. I'm looking forward to catching up online.